Good evening and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the think show that proves without a shadow of doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his or her way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one. And every time we change these identities upon ourselves, or every time we take on identities and try to be somebody else's character in a book, because they have books written about people who people over here try to become those characters and think there are those characters. It can be in literature, like you read the Bible, you will pick out some people in the Bible who you claim your people are from. This is the Black African American. This is what they do. This is what they do. If anybody write about it, some people in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, somewhere, the Negro over here will make sure he becomes that person or those people that are being written about. They do it in the Bible, they do it in the Quran. But what happens when you start becoming other things that's not yourself, that your great grandfather was? You're not from that stock. You're not from there. But you try to shape shift yourself into being that. It can cause very detrimental harm to the communities and the surrounding communities we're in. Just last week, and everybody who's listening, please send some good vibe to that kid who watched his father get shot down at that football game. This is what I'm saying, y'all. But we can't even communicate. You gonna kill a dude's. Man, imagine what that 9-year-old is. I bet he probably hadn't even been to sleep since that day. That kid probably hadn't even been asleep watching his father get mowed down like that. And these are millions. These are what the cat that killed him is what most Negroes want to be. Please send some good thoughts, some good vibes to that young man, because he's gonna need it. So tonight, we got a cool bill for you guys tonight. Um, it's like I was saying earlier, when we take on all these other personas, that's not who we are. People write things about monsters and attach that to you, and that's what you want to be. He gives you guns not to shoot at him, to shoot at yourselves. And you guys, you act like that's not what it is. The whole thing is a self-genocide thing, and it's a self-genocide thing so he won't have to carry the karma. He wants it done. He just get your dumb ass to do it. Right? Ain't you the one who sell dope to your kids? Yeah. And all y'all that want to be around that stuff. This is we're giving ourselves a self-abortion. And this is nationwide. Because of what you just saw, what that brother did on that football field. How we don't even think, we just go crazy because we don't know what nothing, that we don't know what else to do. Everything is emotions. No thinking ever. Just go off. That's going to be used against you. Remember that. Just do something. You just don't have nothing, won't have nothing to do with you. That's how emotional you've gotten. So joining us tonight, it's always a pleasure to have speaking with us on Fridays. We get through the week. We get to hear some good news. We have Acamax Nation's own grandmother, Lisa Cypress, is joining us. Lisa, how you doing? You're just gonna leave me hanging, Lisa? Well, anyway, until she comes back. So we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about these terms and these words and these things that we think are cool, but damn, they not. All you got to do is think about it. And this is what I'm saying. Stop letting people tell you what is. What do you say? You are a part of this, right? You've seen stuff. Your parents went through stuff. You have you have family that's been here longer than all these immigrants coming over here. Yet you keep your mouth shut. Why? Janice Taylor, how you doing? So Truth, thanks for being with us tonight. Genealogy season 22, how you doing tonight? Sean Israel, how you doing tonight? Shay Pierre, Hawkeye, Free Hawk. You know why? Hawks are cool because hawks can see. Hawk got pinpoint accuracy, precision on their sight. Always good to be able to see. And you just don't see with your eyes sometimes. You can see with your ears. You can see with your voice. Always be king. What do you say about a situation? See, that's why a lot of us we don't say nothing. We don't have no boundaries. We just figure other people are gonna take care of it. It doesn't work like that. You're gonna have to take care of it. You there, Lise?
Yep.
Yeah. What you sharing with us tonight?
Well, thank you for having me. And sorry I'm a little late. Just got distracted. But I'm here and I'm glad I'm back with the greatest chat in the land, the most intellectual, um, critical thinker, the Indigenous one, Buck Wellham, Carrie Davis of African Americans Ain't African. Glad to be here.
Well, thank you for being with us and thank you for sharing with us.
Well, I just was like, a lot is being tried on us. We're being tried, and a lot is being tried on us all at the same time. You have to understand that all this news that we're getting, and it's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be. Like it could be worse. It always could be worse. And the other thing is, you got to understand these poor white folks got worse news going on, but it ain't being reported. Why? Because they don't want you to feel like, wow, they really catching hell. They want they all right now. The objective is for us to feel fear and feel oppressed and feel downtrodden. So anything they can pick and find that we is happening in our community that is negative, it's gonna get put out there, all in your face, all in your face. And whatever they're doing or whatever horrible things are happening in their communities is going to be downplayed or not even talked about at all, which is really actually unfortunate for some of the people that make the stories that may need attention, that they're not going to get attention because their objective is to keep us in ignorance forever. because of the land that is ours and the freedom that we should have, that we don't know that we can have. All of this is about that. If you don't understand, if we don't understand what our true identities can mean in our lives, if we are, indigenous, then you don't understand anything. It's not worth anything if you don't know the value of it. If you just think, well, I'm gonna get my card, or and you don't know the real value, the real power that we have. If you don't know your power, then you're worthless. It doesn't matter you figured out your genealogy. If you don't know the power behind it, it's worthless. And that's why they're always giving you a different story. That's why there's all such a spin on history. That's why they work so hard to deceive and to turn the truth around. They do it because they have so much to lose, because they've lied so much and they've stolen so much. This topic is, a slave ain't brown skinned and a Negro ain't African. It's very important that we know that a slave ain't brown skinned. They have made it abundantly clear that a slave is like synonymous with being a Negro, being brown skinned and indigenous. That is not true. It is a lie. And I need you, I almost want to, we all need to, like, you know how they say, go ahead and shake a, go and shake your neighbor's hand or whatever, hug your neighbor or whatever they used to do. But now they're too scared. Everybody got face masks on. But whatever the deal is, we need to shake a neighbor, shake them and say, a Negro ain't African and a slave ain't brown skinned. Because the reality is, us having this image of us being the slaves in our psyche has put us in this place where we just can't get right. We can't get right. But if you actually look at things, the whole slavery scenario does not make sense at all. Not with our history. Nothing makes sense when you start to really pick it apart. And when you start to, and let me tell you something, this whole white slavery thing, they're erasing this. There used to be, I think, about 6 or 8 books on Amazon about white slaves. I think there are 2 now, just the 2. The 2, there were white slaves and white cargo. There are about 6 or 8 of them. They are erasing anything. All the truth is being erased. I'm telling you. There's very little information out there. This guy did a video, which I had on there. I'm gonna try to share it. And he was talking about white slavery. He Googled that information back in, I think it was 07 or something like that, or maybe it wasn't that long ago, but maybe it was like 2000 and I don't know, 12 or something. It was a while ago. But anyway, he was able to Google all this information about white slavery. You can't Google it now. You Google it now, you see some sex slave shit stuff. You're not going to find anything about white slavery. He says, and if you want to find out about white slavery, in this video, he says, all you got to do is Google it. Well, no, it's not Googleable anymore. It's not Googleable anymore. So
I like to point out too, also on the stories and everything that they tell you, take a minute to think about what they say. Because if you think about what she's saying about they're taking the white slavery out, who are those white people coming over here at that time? Who are they? They said they dumped their prisons over here. The people who were coming over here, these weren't high status people. A lot of the children were orphans. Think about that, and think about simply, and this is why genealogy is extra important. Do your genealogy, you're going to run into some of those stories. It's not that long ago. And that's what I mean. You're connected to this land right here. Okay, Lisa.
Well, the fact that they did bring a lot of people who were, um, orphans over here, these kids didn't really have names. They
Right.
took your names, you know? They took your names and they took your identities and they took your land along with it. A lot of the people that are now high status, you look at them, they look like they got some kind of, missing a chromosome or something. And you're like, wow, they got a whole lot of land and a whole lot of money. And they think that they're like original, colonialists. The reality of these people, a lot of these people, is that they're actually the descendants of orphans, of criminals, you know, and this is the thing that they hide, right? Nobody talks about the fact that this happens. And when they do, it's pretty much shut down. It's pretty much put to the, put to the side. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to hear about it. It's like that. But the reality of us, okay, so, and then what about Benjamin Franklin? He was a runaway slave. We have a President Johnson was a Andrew Johnson was a runaway slave. We have all these runaway slaves in our history, prominent figures. Okay, it doesn't make sense. And then in our history, we have all these inventors and early educators, and yeah, it's like, okay, even if you look at it like this. If Cheney State started in 1837, who were those educators? Because the people that were teaching were educated, right? See, what they don't tell you is that there were so many free Negroes. Free Negroes were going to school. They were being apprenticed as doctors and lawyers and teachers. This whole myth that nobody was learning how to read and write until after emancipation is a lie, because they don't want to. They want to make you think that you are nothing but a slave, because a slave is brown skin, and that you're from Africa. But a Negro ain't African, and the slaves weren't brown skinned. The majority of the slaves were Europeans. And every time they see Negro, they insert African now. Because in reality, when they would say African, they would actually say from the Congo, from Gambia. If they actually were using, describing an African, they always describe where they came from, whether it's some lost prince of so and so. They always describe the actual country. They never just said the African, unless there was some kind of fiction. A Negro has never been a term for the African, and I showed a video where they discussed that. And what is a Negro? They said clearly a Negro is not an African. They don't know what the term comes from. Oh, we know what Negro comes from. It comes from the indigenous people that are here. We know that it's the indigenous people that are the Negroes. And that's why Obama got rid of Negro. If you're looking at the other side of this thing, you'll see the Africans. Now, first of all, like, we was never that. We were never that, hanging out naked. We were very modest. We were never that. We were never that. We weren't even living on that level in the 1600s. We were living like kings, queens, and Europe, leaders of the planet. We were wearing all kinds of fancy gear and all kinds of fashion. We were not living like we were crawling on our bellies. We were not that in the 1600s. Believe it. We were traveling, we were trading, we were exposed to different cultures and different languages, and we were creating art and information and inventions for the entire planet. For the entire planet, they learned from us as they do now. We were not roasting rats. We were inventing. You see that planter down there? That's the first so-called, now he patented this in the early 1800s. However, I understand that that's just what they think. See, they don't know. They don't want to tell the truth that people were patenting things in the 1700s. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that people were writing and patenting and teaching in the 16 and 1700s. They don't want you to know that because we're supposed to be ignorant, right? We're supposed to not be able to do anything. Rebecca Crumper in that picture above, she was one of the first MDs, and she wrote that book, Medical Discourses. Phyllis Wheatley, that story of the poet, supposed to have been, a former. Everybody's a former slave. Because why? Because at first they didn't want to say that anybody was ever free, but then the records got out, and you see all these free people and free people of color free people, free Negro documents, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Well, they still try to put former slave in front of everybody. Everybody automatically gets a former slave until you disprove it, until you start going at these people every time they post something, every time they do a Wikipedia or they put an article up and it's got a former slave and it ain't verified. Until we start attacking them, they're going to keep saying everybody's a former slave. People were, what is the genealogy talking about? Anyway, so people were trading from Virginia from the earliest of times. My ancestors in particular were traveling to Bermuda, to England, and back and forth, and on New England as well, trading furs, trading corn, trading tobacco. We were trading all types of items. That is documented. So if you don't know your history, you can't fight anything. Somebody goes and questions you, you don't got nothing to say to them. But really, what the hell is anybody doing questioning you anyway? Mind your damn business. Everybody got a whole bunch of lies out there, and then you got these idiots out there that have the audacity to question somebody when they ain't got nothing going on, they don't know nothing, and they don't have the authority to ask anybody anything. That's a problem. But nonetheless, you want to know everything you can know. So when these idiots rise up, you can smash them down where they belong. Anyway, let's go on. The reality is we are a distinctive people with a history. And look at this man. He's an early so-called explorer to the North Pole. Okay? Matthew. What's his name? Something. Let me see. Matthew Henson. Matthew Henson. So this is the thing. I mean, and then you're looking at this poster, which is really crazy, of this woman being flogged. But the reality is, we could own slaves. We, the indigenous people, were owning white slaves. That's the reality of truth in this country. That's the thing that nobody is never going to want to talk about, but that's the real deal. Okay? That's the real deal of America. Yes, America, the Negro Indians, the indigenous people owned white slaves. That's the truth. And so you want to make us out to be the slaves, but the reality is y'all were the slaves. Y'all were the slaves. And let's get a little bit of that information here. Okay, I think I'm going to go a little bit further back. Oh, that's where I wanted to be, I think. It's 12. To be 12. Somewhere in there. Okay. That's that guy.
Do we really need to go into all the gory details? We know all too well of the atrocities of the African slave trade. But are we talking about the African slave trade? King James II and Charles I also led a continued effort to enslave the Irish. Britain's famed Oliver Cromwell further this practice of dehumanizing one's next door neighbor. The Irish slave trade began when James II sold 30,000 Irish prisoners as slaves to the New World. His proclamation of 1625 required Irish political prisoners to be sent overseas and sold to English settlers in the West Indies. By the mid-1600s, the Irish were the main slaves sold to Antigua and Montserrat. At that time, 70% of the total population of Montserrat were Irish slaves. Ireland quickly became the biggest source of human livestock for English merchants. The majority of the early slaves to the New World were actually white, something many people aren't taught in their school. From 1641 to 1652, over 500,000 Irish were killed by the English, and another 300,000 were sold as slaves. Ireland's population fell from about 1.5 million to 600,000.
Okay. You always talk about this. If we were taken from Africa in the numbers like they try to say, wouldn't they have a population problem? Wouldn't they have a dent in their population? Wouldn't their population be devastated? Wouldn't
Yep.
they have a loss of people that is palpable? Well, here you go. With the Irish, they clearly got it. They know they lost a whole lot of people. It is, the number is actually felt. It was noticed. It is marked. It's marked in history. You can see the difference. It is evident, but not with Africa. It's not evident because it didn't happen.
And this is what I mean, y'all. Question everything.
Yeah.
Families were ripped apart as the British did not allow Irish fathers to take their wives or children with them across the Atlantic. This led to an enormous population of homeless women and children. Britain's solution was to auction them off as well. During the 1650s, over 100,000 Irish children between the ages of 10 and 14 were taken from their parents and sold as slaves in the West Indies, Virginia, and New England. In this decade, 52,000 Irish, mostly women and children, were sold to Barbados and Virginia. Another 30,000 Irish men and women were also transported and sold to the highest bidder. In 1656, Cromwell ordered that 2,000 Irish children be taken to Jamaica and sold as slaves to English settlers. Many people today will avoid calling the Irish slaves what they truly were, slaves. They'll come up with terms like indentured servants. This is to describe what occurred to the Irish. However, in most cases, in the 17th and 18th centuries, Irish slaves were nothing more than human cattle. As an example, the African slave trade was just beginning during the same period. It is well recorded that African slaves, not tainted with the stain of the hated Catholic theology and more expensive to purchase, were often treated far better than their Irish counterparts. African slaves were very expensive during the late 1600s, as they were 50 sterling. Irish slaves came cheap, no more than 5 sterling. If a planter whipped or branded or beat an Irish slave to death, it was never a crime. A death was nothing more than a monetary setback, but far cheaper than killing a more expensive African. The English masters quickly began breeding the Irish women for both their own personal pleasure and for greater profit. Children of slaves were themselves also slaves, which increased the size of the master's free workforce.
Okay, y'all get the idea. So, I mean, this is the thing. These this whole idea that these people wanted to paint that we're the slaves and that there's some kind of people seeking a better life, religious freedom, blah blah blah, you know, taming the brave new world. This is all fiction. Everything's a fairy tale. Everything is written for daggone consumption. It's all propaganda. You know, we think of politics as being political spin, but actually, history is spin. And when I just you know, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do something a little personal. I guess I'll do that thing. Why not? Why not? Since we're talking about political spin, where we at? Where am I at? Where's the? Oh, here I am. Okay. Um, talking about political spin. Get that. Let me get the. Yeah. Okay. I want to get the Trademark. Yeah. Oh. Where am I? Okay. All right. Oh. Okay. So I wanted to get one of my books. Hold on a second. And tell you about it because this is a thing. We when you get deep into your family, into your history, you'll understand that people are going to get a little more desperate, especially with my lawsuit still in effect, and people are gonna they're going to try to fight you in various ways, informational wise or and otherwise. So I had originally hired a bar attorney, a an attorney who works with different tribes in Virginia, New York, um, Pennsylvania, and she knew everything about what I had learned about my history, my genealogy. I gave her that information. I told her about, what I discovered about land that's been stolen, land that actually belongs to us, da 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 da. Well, she took that information and passed it on to the powers that be, obviously. I had made more gains before hiring that attorney than I had when after I hired her. She rolled it all backwards. Like all the progress I had made communicating with people, getting things done, she dialed that all back. Like I had gone and it's like I had never done anything. It was worse than ever. Far worse than before I hired her. But one of the things that I can tell it is far worse is that I had told her about one of our ancestors, and how he has a patent. Well, or more than one, but he's past patent. And he's related to a lot of my the Accomack, because he is an Accomack Indian, of course. And next thing I know, not even a year after I've had this conversation with her, a book comes out about him. And I'm like, really? That's random. Why would somebody randomly write a book about this particular ancestor? There's other people in history that are more interesting, and very odd that this occurred, but it did. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, let me switch it. And why is it not changing the view? Okay. Oh, because I don't have a camera open. Okay. Okay, so this is it. So the book is here. It's Henry Bagwell, and it's a story. Okay, the story of from 1589 to 1663. I'm covering it up, right? English adventurer, Virginia planner, okay? And I'm like, I see it on Amazon, right? And I'm like, 2021? So I was like pissed, and I was like, I'm not going to get that book. And then I was like, you know what? Certain events happened recently that I said, I have to get this book. I have to know everything that they're writing about, what they're writing. So I'm trying to figure out. So now what they're saying is this Indian. Now let me tell you, the Bagwells are written as being Indian, okay? By the Walter Plecker of Indian writing, Dr. Dr. Roundtree, Dr. Helen Roundtree writes in her book that Bagwell is an Indian name, and that he was prominent in Northampton counties, Accomack, land, kingdom, and that he was known to be involved in politics, also going to church with political leaders, being a social and savvy leader in the community. Hey, Taran. Well, now this book is saying that he's an Englishman. You understand that a lot of this is like they use the Englishman, and they're not saying he's a black Englishman. They're saying he's an Englishman, but they use they're going to use the English the same way they use the African. Anything to get you off your lane, right? But even this can't disconnect me from my lineage with him. It can't, because there's so many of us, my kin, the Accomacs, who are connected to him. It's irrefutable. These other people, even the writer of this book, I don't even know if she claims to be related. I don't think she does. But they can't claim the genealogy that we have. We have a very strong genealogy and contact with him. Okay. All right, so the only thing they have in this book that they kind of latch on to, I can't get it right. Okay, there it is this little document here. They say came out of a church, which they have a picture of on the other page. And I know you can't see it, but I'm gonna try to get it there. Okay. All right, I'm getting it a little better. All right, so this is it. It's really hard to read it. The print is the penmanship is that real old English penmanship that you expect to see, right? But anyway, there is a name on here that might look like it says Bag or Baywell or Bag. You really can't tell if it's a G or a Y or a W-E-L or Wall, or you really can't tell. However, you could, about a stretch of the imagination, say it says David Bagwell or whatever. David, not Henry. David. What is interesting about this whole thing and how you know it's fraudulent is this. The only people they have that have the name Bagwell in England is Henry. They claim Henry is there, but there's no evidence that he's there. They don't have a document showing Henry's there at all. There's no document. They say it says something about him being an apprentice, or there's no mention of Henry Bagwell at all. No. However, there is a mention of the David, or maybe David. Like I said, in that thing I showed you, that could be by some stretch of imagination, could say Bagwell. I'm not sure, but even if it does, this is the point of English, of knowing genealogy and history. 1589, 1580s, 15 anything. That ain't English, because English history will go back to 200. It'll go back to 200 and something, 100 and something. So the fact that it only goes back, you only got a Bagwell from the 1550s or whatever. They're not English. Don't be stupid. When you know better, you know better. English names and surnames in history go back way farther than 1580, 1550. If you can't find no more kin than some David that's born in this so-called this is a death record, which doesn't mean anything. He could have been traveling to England. He could have a home in England, and he could have died in England, just like Pocahontas so-called did. It does not indicate that he's British, dying there, especially with nobody else in the line. Bagwell's known to be an indigenous name, and it's also, we have tons of people that are connected to this name in Virginia. Period. And that's what they do. They try to disconnect you from yourself. This is actually libel. This is actually almost, you're trying to exterminate us, right? You're trying to disconnect me from my people. It's time we start taking action against these people who are doing these sort of things to erase us. We were not sitting in the weeds waiting for the pale-skinned Europeans to come on our shores. We were traveling. We were trading. We were not these primitive people that they want to attach us to being. That's not our life. That's not how we were living. And that's really funny because I have all the the records from the ship manifest, from him traveling back and forth. See, that's the thing. When you have the truth, it's going to show. You're going to have ship manifests, you're going to have records, you're going to have family records. You're going to have the evidence when it's true. But when you don't, you're just going to have one little death certificate and no other family to mention, and a whole book that is supposed to be about your story about Henry Bagwell, but on page 83, you talk about 1619. What the heck does that have to do with the Henry Bagwell from Britain? Why would he care about 1619 and you lying about there being Africans coming to Virginia? That's ridiculous. So you see how strong this is a propaganda piece. You're inserting all kinds of irrelevant propaganda into this work for no reason but to push a lie along and to cover up the thieving, the land theft and the identity theft that occurred when these people arrived here.
Now, when you say blacks and Africans don't exist, what do you mean by that?
What are they? African Americans, I said. Blacks and African Americans don't exist because they're made up. They're make-believe terms. There's no such thing as an African American, except for these Africans that come here and seek their citizenship, these new African Americans.
No, I was talking to a sister. She was an educated one, went to one of these HBCUs and got her degree in African studies. Mm. And I was like, and it was just hard for her to answer simple questions. I was like, okay, well, African Americans do have a calendar, right? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. What are their dates? What are their months of the year, their days and stuff? Since there are people, because I was going with what you were saying, they're made up. They're fictional characters.
Right.
They're not real. They just popped on the world scene 40 years ago.
Right.
And we try to, and you can tell by the way we're trying to revise history. Now they're saying that people like in Frederick Douglass's time or Phyllis Wheatley times were African Americans.
Right. And we just let them, and our leaders, our educators, just let them just remix history right in our faces. See, how can we even get upset that they're going back? Did they not even recognizing that there were white slaves, when right while we live and breathe, we're allowing them to call our grandfathers, grandmothers, fathers and mothers all African American. Why are we allowing them to remix us in our faces? You can't get upset that why didn't they tell us about these white slaves? Whoa, no, they're calling you African to your face, and you know that you have no African story, you backstory, no African daggone origin story. You don't have any oral history of being from Africa, but yet you're accepting this, and you're accepting the fact that your parents were never called themselves African, but you're letting them be called African American. You're allowing all these famous people in history to be called African. They're having Africans act as them in movies, and we don't have nothing to say about it. Oh, that's great. She did a good job. Whatever. I don't know. I don't get it. I feel like it's a sad cop out. What are we doing? We need to do better. We need to understand that the Negro is not African. And even in that video where that guy was talking, he inserted Negro, he inserted African for the Negro. When he talked about slaves, he called them African slaves. They were the Negroes. Every time he said African, it was inserted for a Negro. And we need to be clear on this. And we need to correct this. It is exhausting when you go to different sites and you see these different descriptions, and you're like, why are they always calling us out of our name? Why are they always calling us African when we're not? And it's exhausting when you actually have to send an email, but that's what we need to do. When you see it, go to the contact us thing and send them an email. Be like, look, they're not Africans. They're not African American. Correct it when you see it. That's what we have to do. We have to just start doing that. Our voice, our voices, our objections are the strongest things we have.
And like you said, you got a lot of people, playing the game. So what you think when all this is said and done, the next time you see Spike Lee, what do you think he's going to say? What do you think his words are going to be to the community?
Well, I don't really care about Spike Lee. I know he's a clown, but anyway, I really don't care. But I mean, I think that eventually people are going to have to change what they're saying, right? Because
what I mean by that and the whole Spike Lee thing, and
right.
is we do the work. We call ourselves we don't even call ourselves our people's name. We don't even know where they lived. We're calling ourselves this. We're calling ourselves Wakanda or whatever this new thing they got going on. We take on these names and we try to become that. Like we become all these other fictions that they write about. We try to be that because we don't want to be ourselves. I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have to, this is on us. The blame is not, we're not blaming nobody. We got to look at ourselves. Like, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, that's what each one has to do. We all just need to do a little something. Like if you, like I said, shake your neighbor. Shake your neighbor, okay? Because shake them to wake up, because it's like that's what we need to be doing. We need to shake them up a little bit, wake them up a little bit, because we can't keep doing this. They're trying so desperately hard to get us to be something that we're not. They're trying so African American, as you know, I found out last year or the year before when I was doing my trademark stuff. African Americans owned by a Chinese man. He actually I was gonna actually look into trademarking that actually, so I could stop people from using it. But he beat me to it. He got like a couple days ahead of me. He actually trademarked African American, and a Chinese person, communist China, is the owner of the trademark for African American. So every time we say that, that's for him. Why are we using a term that someone else from another part of the world has trademarked? A communist in communist China. So it doesn't make any sense. Just to stop it. Unfortunately, he got to it first. If I got into it first, I would have been like, stop using that crap. I was just like a couple of days late, I would have been like, stop using this word. I would have stopped it. Done everything I could with that damn trademark. But unfortunately, he beat me to it. So this is the thing. We need to do whatever we can to educate people in every way we can, casually, formally, within our families, within our workplaces, within our social constructs, social media, the schools. Volunteer at the schools to do some Indigenous education. Show up at the principal's office. Explain what you want to teach, because the history books don't have it right, and you want the school to be culturally sensitive to the truth, which they should be. They should be all encompassing, welcoming, inclusive. And inclusivity means to teach the facts of the Indigenous people. So we need to start marching and drumming on that beat, getting to be a part and to be, the part of change that we need in our communities in small ways. The first in your family, talking to your family. That's the hardest thing. Reaching out, starting Facebook pages with your families, group family pages, joining, being active, posting this information. Are you sharing like the stuff from African Americans Ain't African in your family groups? Like your reunion groups? Or your family whatever get together groups, or your family picture groups? Are you doing that? Why aren't you sharing these posts that you just look at and you share amongst your Indigenous woke friends? I hate that word, woke. Anyway,
What does that mean anyway? What is it used for?
used to make people want to vomit mostly, and misused by these pale skins in a way that just makes me want to scream. But anyway, if you're sharing it amongst people that are already in the know, you're not doing any service. But you need to share it on your family pages with the people, and your regular page. To the people you went to high school with, people you work with. You need to share this information with everybody, because that's how we get the information out. That's how we make change. It doesn't take a lot. If you just preach to the crowds, do you preach to the choir, you ain't getting nothing done. You got to inform the people that aren't informed. You got to reach those people who are still, going to their Greek parties and going around, barking like dogs, and and still think that they're Pan African. You got to reach those people. Reach out to them. You may not reach them, but maybe maybe somebody they know will see it, or somebody maybe it'll touch somebody in their family, maybe a youngster, something like that. But we do need to reach out to young people. And that's why it's very important that we start teaching in the schools and teaching in our communities and our families, and learning as much as we can about ourselves. And baby, buy everything you can. I have a lot of very, very old books that are gonna save our lives, because they will never be able to say, well, where'd you find that? Well, we have it. That's where we have it. That's where we find it. We find it because we have it. We have copies of it. We have the actual books. We have the texts. We have the journals. We have the volumes. Buy your stuff. There's a volume of information about free slave owners of South Carolina that's available on Amazon. I don't think they have that many copies of that. Things are going to be disappearing. Buy it. I'm not from South Carolina. I don't think I brought it. I might I might have just so I'd have it for other people, but I don't know. But anyway, if I didn't or if it's still there, y'all need to get it because especially if that's where your people are from. You need to buy books from where your people are from. Look all over. Look on eBay. Look on eBay UK. Look on eBay Germany. Look on eBay. China. eBay Australia. Look in different places. eBay New Zealand. Look on these different sites. Look for antique bookstores. Look at Abe books. Find your sources of information and own them. These databases are disappearing. These books online are going away. And some of you haven't, you don't have a catalog of stuff enough to really help you out. And unfortunately, I don't know about us. Sometimes we don't share like we should. So you need to go ahead and get what you can.
Okay,
If
Lisa.
I have share.
One question I wanted to talk to you about, or it's something that we always use. When you're saying being ignorant of who we truly are is deadly. So when you say being ignorant, a lot of people look at the word ignorant as being like being out of the loop or being stupid or something. And basically what it means, or what I take it to mean, is that we are ignoring what's being put forth. Could you talk on that?
Yeah, I think yeah, that's true. We're ignoring. It's just like it's really easy not to like think hard about anything or be like or question things. It's
Why?
much easier just to accept what is told to you and keep it moving. That's the whole mentality of learning these days. Like kids don't really even learn to learn. They don't learn to actually analyze a question. They learn to just like, I got the right answer, now moving on. They learn the right answer, whatever that is. They don't learn to analyze that answer and be like, wait a minute, why is that the right answer? Are you sure that's the right answer, teacher? That don't, does that, why is that the right answer? See, that's the way we used to kind of think. We used to be able to say, why is that the right answer? But people don't do that anymore. They just be like, I got it. I know the answer, and I'm just moving on to the next one. But that's not analytical, right? That's not critical thinking. That's letting someone else think for you. And when you let someone else think for you, they can tell you anything. But the problem with it, yeah, it would be okay if they're telling you anything and they're not trying to destroy you. But the problem is that these people, what they're doing with the fact that they're telling you anything is they're taking away all possibility of your people ever living any different. Right now, the way we're living is that we're all working, we're all trying to, get, earn a living, meet somebody, may have a good life, or maybe raise a family, whatever. But the reality is we also have to dodge the bullets of oppression, not being treated fairly, having all kinds of people step over and above us at the workplace if we're workers. If we have a business, it's harder for us to get certain things done, whether it's permits, whether it's just even if you're getting access to a good lease, a good piece of property to even start your business, getting access to certain products at certain prices, getting certain wholesalers to work with. all these different obstacles, whether you are a a business person or whether you're working, we always have to step a little different, being the people that we are. We have other things that are going to be in our way. However, when you know who you know who you know who you are, there are certain things that we can remove from our path. There are certain obstacles that we don't have to deal with. I was looking at an article about a girl. Evidently, did y'all see the article about the girl who was murdered because her boyfriend found out she was pregnant? So called. He wanted her to get an abortion and he killed her. I don't know if this is even true, but they have these Negro people that are supposedly, he's a lieutenant in the Navy and he murdered her because this young sister, because she didn't want to have an abortion. So that's horrible and tragic. And, but we feel like we are at the whim of this country and this, not the country, but this United States corporation. And we're not if we are in our proper status. If we are in our proper status, then you're not going to have those obstacles. Now, you will have those obstacles if you are not. But the reality is that, okay, let's say, for instance, what we were talking about. There was a story I saw today about a woman who, her daughter was playing in the backseat of her car, and her 4-year-old shot herself, killed herself. And the woman is in prison. And she had to see her daughter's funeral on, I don't know, I guess on the telephone or on camera or whatever, on a video, because she couldn't even attend her daughter's funeral. They had her locked up. And I thought, well, my God, like, isn't she punished enough that her daughter killed herself in her car with her gun? I mean, isn't that enough to live? Isn't that enough punishment? You got to go to jail too, for real? As if she killed her daughter. Like, I don't. Anyway, this is my thing. Had she been indigenous, they wouldn't be able to just lock her up like that. Had she been an actual Indian, an indigenous American Indian in her proper status, repatriated, she could have said, "Oh no." Her people could have said, "You know what? We'll take care of her. We got this." You know what I mean? That's what should be happening in our lives. A lot of these things that happen, we should be able to take hold of our people and manage what is going on. But because we're not in our proper status, we're not able to do that. Yeah, it may be fake news. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that because that is a political thing. They want to make it seem like we should be against guns, and they're using these things as political, fodder. The abortion, a black couple in abortion, he killed her. Oh, a little girl gets murdered with her mother's gun in the back seat. All this stuff. They're trying to play with our emotions, whether it's real news or not real news, either the way. And I actually feel like that's what it is. They do that to manipulate us. But the reality is, if these kind of things do happen, us being in our proper status, repatriated people that we are supposed to be, we can handle these things ourselves and tell that corporation to get out of our business. As a matter of fact, we can deny them access to that as news. We can have a lot more control over our lives and the stresses that affect us. Whatever they want to implement, they can't just go implementing that on us. It is a freedom that we don't know yet. But it's a freedom that is our right. And that's what we should be working towards. that level of freedom. That's why you do your genealogy. That's why you find out who you really are. That's why you repatriate, because the more you do, the more freedom you can actually have, not just for you, but for ever, for generations upon generations. It's not like being an urban Indian and like, I got some benefits, I'm good, I'm getting a grant, no. You want to be able to change your freedom, the freedom for your people, for generations to come. Wow. Oh, wow. They're saying that in a movie? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, everybody does know who we are but us, and it's a shame. And the thing about it is, we need to know, and we need to show, and we need to prove, and we need to grow. We need to get everything we can that we're supposed to have, being the landlords. We need to be as free as we deserve to be, which is completely free. This is our land. All these people are invaders. They're all immigrants. They're all immigrants. And they keep these false narratives going so that they can keep what they have. It's just that simple. They have to lie because everything is built on a lie. But
So
the
why do you
problem,
so why do
hmm?
you think we do what we do? We just act like we don't see what's going on, or act like it's okay, or it's for everybody. Why do you think we're so deep in that mindset?
Why are we so deep in it? I think because I think we think it's just, we just don't want to work. I
Okay.
think we just don't want to work. I think we feel like, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand it, because to me, everything is about you. If you can, if I know it's there, if I know it's there, I got to do everything I can to
Right.
get it. But I think that people don't really know that it's there. They don't, even if they do, they don't really believe it. So they don't really try. I think that may be it. They don't know. They don't really believe it. Maybe, you know. So they don't really try. But they should. They should know it. They should know it, and they should believe it. And I know this is a lot of new information. And I know a lot of people, and the whole process of trying to get together with your family, that seems like an insurmountable task. But you have to understand that when you do this, it's not just you. Your ancestors are working it. They are It is not just you. It will look like it's just you, but you're going to have a lot of people pushing and promoting and helping you along that are not visible. And there's nothing that could be, I mean, I can't think of anything better than to be able to change the way your future you and your future people walk into the sunset. They're doing different things. They got different options. They got better options. They got new options, old options. They're doing things that you dreamt of doing. That's what we should all be aiming for.
Well, when we talk about our ancestors, our progeny, and everything that we have put down from here, and what I mean about what we put down is whatever America produces as people, that's us. You have to remember the human body is an antenna. You have all your ancestors buried here. You don't hear them calling you. You don't hear them saying nothing, because all a skeletal is, it's an antenna. You're not getting it? And so this is what I'm saying. Got to take a look at yourself other than what other people tell you you are, because they're going to tell you anything. They're not telling you you were a slave. They're telling you you're going to be a slave because you don't think. Never think. Whatever somebody else says, you just go along with it, no matter how dumb it sounds. That's what the African Americans do. That's what the black people do. You never seen nobody black. 70 years ago, if you call somebody black, you'd get slapped in the mouth. That's a derogatory term. Your people had names. Your people had cities and some code names for the cities. Many of you are from there. Many of you are there now. And you let these people just walk over here and just flip the script on you like that and get you to go with it. You better want to come up with another idea quick.
Tell your mama she ain't from Africa and watch her call you. Whose mama says that they're from Africa?
Nobody's.
No one's. No
Nobody.
one's. Only somebody who's been brainwashed. Nobody's mama says they're from Africa unless they're really from Africa or been brainwashed by some boule society or organization to think that way. No, nobody's mama. That's not here in America. That is not the way it is. No.
Well, cool, Lisa. Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, giving us an hour of your time. It's definitely needed and something to think about during the weekend, and I definitely going to do that. So I want to thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, that's good. Thank you so much for having me. And you guys have a good night. And thank you again.
Also, to the chat, get over to AfricanAmericans.com. That's AAA ain't a AA ain't a.com. Check us out. We got the book over there. Gives you some simple answers to all these questions you've been told about all your life that you ain't no African. Just common sense facts that you may have jumped over. They're there in the book. Check us out, and we'll be here tomorrow. We're going to have Rick Moon on tomorrow. So check out Rick Moon. He's going to come and give us some tomorrow. So everybody have a good Friday night, and we'll see you later on in the weekend. Peace.